What's up, guys? This is Ryan from Resume to Offer. Hope everyone's doing really, really well today. It is mid-December now. Wow. Yep, we already got the Christmas tree and everything going on. And today I thought I'd make a little bit of a special one, a little out of the ordinary, but it was a little bit of a reflection on some of the things I've done over the last year that have worked, as well as things that you guys can do to kind of, if you guys want to incorporate any of this, you don't have to do it all, but if you want to incorporate it, I do think you'll get more results or better results using some of these tactics. And I was going to go over also some of the techniques that have worked for job hunting, for just health, wellness, relationships, whole nine yards. Okay, so we're going to talk about that as well as I'm a big avid reader, and I was going to share with you some of the books that I would recommend looking into, some of the books that I've read this year. I might throw in a few books that I just overall recommend. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So the weekend was a lot of fun. We had a big biohacking Christmas party last, not night, but yesterday late afternoon. It was carnivore diet specific, and I brought bacon wrapped shrimp. It's my first time bringing that, so and apparently it was a big hit, so that was a win. Also, Eric Finch from Eric with Eric Eric Tech Sales. He made a new video that just got published that we both did a collaboration together, and very, very great video. It's the one that says 10,000 rejected. Gives you some insights, and I would recommend watching that because I give you guys some insights on what's going through the recruiter's mindset at a much more in-depth level. Okay, how the commission structure is working, right? What are they incentivized to do? What makes a good recruiter? And there's also a very special offer in there in their description, so I would definitely check that out. So I recommend doing that. I know they just posted it, and like the next day was like 500 views, so definitely worth checking out. Yeah, tech sales with Eric. I don't know why I was like blanking on that. Anyway, so what a year! What an incredible year! Some of the big achievements that I've had personally since last year. We've had one of the top years in my day-to-day job as an account executive and as a recruiting manager. We, both income as well as just people joining companies. My personal side hustles outside of the day job brought in about 40 to 50K of extra income, which is used. I bought a house. I had an epic 1 week wedding and got married. We had a 3 week honeymoon to the Mediterranean. I also went to conferences, around the U.S., Boston, Chicago, all over the place. And then obviously going abroad, we did Barcelona, Rome, Tuscany, Croatia, France. And then health-wise, I like to stay active. Did the Salem, Oregon 70.3 Ironman, which was a huge treat. And next year, I haven't told you guys, but I'm going to be doing 2 half Ironmans. So wish me luck. I already signed up for one in San Diego in April, and then a bunch of friends got together and they wanted to do another one. So it's like, oh, and so there's going to be one in April, one in September. I think the other one's going to be in the Tri-City area. So we're kind of working on the logistics and details of that, but that'll probably be one of the goals for next year. So those are some of the achievements, which are, I'm not trying to say to brag, but I've definitely noticed that year after year, it keeps getting better. It really keeps better. It keeps getting better, and I'm getting very analytical when it comes to what am I doing on a daily basis? What am I breaking? If I broke it down, what am I doing? What can I do differently? What's working? What's not working? And I do this self-reflection especially on a yearly basis, but also daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. And I'm always looking at that. And it's the same thing when you're looking at sales or especially in my area of staffing and recruiting. You are looking at the analytics because you have to be aware of knowing the score, knowing where you stand, what is, like, especially if you go into a new job, what's the top seller doing? What's the average person doing, right? What constitutes of you being fired, really? Where do you kind of layer in? And how do you kind of keep upping it by 5 to 10% intervals? So you have to be aware of metrics. There's a great book, just to name drop a book, Design Your Life. Okay, that's a great is a group of engineers that basically kind of quantified success in their own way, and it's a way of keeping track of your day by measurements. And it's a great book. Another good one is Design Your Work Life, which I think is a little bit better. I think it's a little bit more practical for especially your career. especially if you're job hunting right now. I definitely recommend that book too. So Design Your Work Life really helps you keep track of metrics and how to kind of like live by measurements that way. What you measure gets managed. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about a little bit of my daily run through. These are things to kind of like consider. You don't have to do any or all of them, but these are things that I do on a daily basis to maximize my productivity, to increase my energy, to also invest in myself for down the road success. Oh, I almost forgot. Oh, I didn't add that part. Yeah, I need to make sure to add that part. Okay. So number one, I do meditation on a nearly daily basis. Okay, so I would say like 5 out of 7 days a week, I do meditation. I do about 15 to 20 minutes. And really, meditation is just clearing your mind and breathing at its simplest form. Okay, breathing in and out through your nose. And if you don't know what kind of breathing, I would recommend looking up what's called box breathing. Box breathing actually, this is what Navy SEALs use. It's gotten a little more popularized, but I literally learned this from a Navy SEAL commander who was my neighbor at the time. But yeah, breathe through your nose 5 seconds, hold 5 seconds, breathe out 5 seconds, hold 5 seconds. And you kind of keep repeating that. Clear your mind. This helps brings things to surface. And even if you have things that get on your mind, try to go back and concentrate on your breathing and counting those intervals. Big game changer just doing that. Okay, so meditation daily. I do intermittent fasting. I usually do sometimes between a 16 to 18 hour window. I don't do it every day. I do it almost like 2 or 3 times a week. And a lot of great research is out there that give you the benefits of fasting. It helps clear your mind, brain fog, lose weight, helps to cleanse your organs. One of my videos that I didn't expect to be so popular, I talked about, I did a 3-day bone broth fast, which is you're drinking bone broth for just 3 days. You're not having any other food. And this is like a total 100% reset on all your organs. And I've done this twice. So funny enough. And the way I would recommend doing that at least like once a year, and then doing intermittent fasting here and there to kind of keep up the maintenance. It's like getting an oil change for your body. Number 3, exercise. Obviously, I'm a big avid exerciser. I go to CrossFit 2 to 4 times a week, and I do interval training, and I do biking, running. I try to move my body at least every day. Even on off days, I still go for a walk outside for like a half an hour to an hour. Okay, they talk about 10,000 steps. You should be doing 10,000 steps. Since I'm a remote worker, it's a little hard sometimes, but at least I do 5,000 steps every day. But you want to make sure you're moving the body. If you move the body, you feel amazingly different. And and I would recommend doing it in the morning. If you do it in the morning, you jumpstart your metabolism. So you're burning, the fuel throughout the entire day. If you do intermittent fasting, while you exercise and then, in the morning, it's going to burn that much more. So some things to consider. Another thing I do that I don't think a lot of people ever do is vocabulary building. Yeah, vocabulary building. In my, not to drop it, but like I wrote a new blueprint ebook that talked about things that I'm doing that a lot of research has gone into it, just things I've either noticed in other people or my own research. I consume a lot of knowledge. There's a person at the turn of the century called Johnson O'Connor, and he was basically, he analyzed all the successful people in GE who he worked for, and he had to find out what was the big significant factor that made all the people who were the top performers, what were the CEOs, what were the branch managers different. The number one common denominator was their level of vocabulary. So this became his whole career for 30 or 40 years. He created the Johnson O'Connor Institute. And he basically found that your level of vocabulary is very correlated with your income level. All the CEOs had the same vocabulary level. All the next levels all had very similar ranges of vocabulary that corresponded with their income level. And he said, if everybody just increased their vocabulary level by 5,000 new words, your income would go up. So I'm testing this out too. So I work on my vocabulary. But I really break this down a lot more in kind of the ebook, or I don't even know if it's called an ebook, more of a blueprint. But I definitely break this down a lot more. It's very interesting, as well as it's specific on the quantity and the quality of the words. What words specifically? Next thing is organic foods. I definitely do a lot of organic eating. I read 30 minutes a day. I also walk outside 30 minutes a day. I do what's called tapping, if anybody knows what that is. Tapping is like you have meridian points all over your body, and it's like acupuncture on those points without needles. And it's a great way to kind of give yourself a little bit of extra energy. I do this in the shower or just whenever I'm feeling a little bit like off. It's a really good way to do it. And there's certain ways that you can do it, certain patterns of tapping, where to tap, how to tap. I could go on and on about that, but there's tons of YouTube videos about this. And I would recommend checking out the Callahan technique or thought field therapy if it's something you're interested in learning. I could teach you, but yeah, it would take about an hour. The next thing, breath work. I do breath work. There's a great book called The Wim Hof Method, which repopularized kind of fire breathing. But, you know, it's been around for thousands of years. He kind of just repopularized it and found his own version of the technique that worked for him. But, yeah, breath work oxygenates the body. It's very, very good to do. I don't do it every day. I do it kind of like every other day. Same thing with cold showers. I do cold showers. There's a lot of benefits with cold showers. And I do that for 2 to 3 minutes every other day. Now, the next thing is kind of structured water. This might be a little weird for people, but if anybody knows structured water, your water, there's certain molecules in the water. And if you get it out of the tap, it's actually considered dead water. If you looked at it under a microscope or like a super advanced microscope, the molecules are not as good as they are in like a stream, a river, something that has some like life force flowing through it. So you might want to consider using structured water that actually energizes the water that you drink. And you should be drinking half your body weight in ounces. So I'm, around like 180 to 190. So that means like I try to drink about 90 to 100 ounces of water a day. And I want to make sure that is the highest quality, make sure it's purified, but also it's structured to the best ability. And I don't know if I'm going to reel that one on this one because it could go down the rabbit hole, but there's a lot of ways to structure water. The easiest, there's a lot of ways you can do it, but I would research on how to structure your water so it's more optimized and efficient, okay? Greatest example is I had a friend who was on dialysis. He started drinking structured water and completely cured himself. I know that sounds like a stretch, but that's the story, okay? Next thing is priority management. I write my to-do list the night before, ready to go the next day. I break my day down into 2-hour increments, 2 hours of focus on the project I'm doing. So for example, like the first part of the morning, I got to get all my priorities done in the first 2 hours. I break it down into 2-hour kind of intervals and then break that further down into 25 minutes. Okay, so 25 minutes, focus on one task, 5-minute break, 25 minutes focus on the next task, 5-minute break, but it's all within a 2-hour window of kind of the area that I'm trying to focus on. So for example, like, all right, I got to get all my priorities done, emails, make sure things are going forward, offer letters, things like that, which I got to do this morning. The first 2 hours of the day, I'm going to focus on that. Easiest way to do this is the 80-20 principle. What is the 20% that's going to give you 80% of the results? Identify, and you got to start honing in on that 20%. That 20% is the thing that you focus on for the first 2 hours of the day. If you do that, out of everything I just said, you will really maximize your productivity, okay? In a lot of the works I've done, a lot of people say, like, how did you get so much done or like consistently? Is because I've identified what is the 20% giving me 80% of the results, and I make sure I get that done first so that my success and my momentum is more consistent. Okay, so I hope that helps. I actually have a bunch of other stuff I was going to write down, but I feel like I don't know. I know you guys want to get to other stuff, so I think I will go down to breaking into sales. Some effective strategies. Okay. If you guys want more, feel free to message me, but also it's in the blueprint as well. Okay. So, breaking into sales. What has been some effective strategies for people? Okay. What has been working for other ones? Okay. Number one, informational interviews and referral marketing. Okay. So, contacting multiple companies, right? And you're not pitching, you're not after the job, but you're trying to just network. What they do is they call them up, 10-15 minute interview, they request it over LinkedIn, they put the attention on the other person. Hey, how did you break into this industry? What advice would you recommend for me? They make that person a contact. 2-3 months later, jobs posted, they use that person as a contact, like, hey, can you be a referral for me in this role? Okay, it's a very effective strategy. I would caution that you don't make this too salesy in terms of like you're too desperate, you're too needy. It's like the sniff test. They can sniff that you're just looking for a referral, okay? And it has to be a lot more relationship building for long term. Don't just focus on getting the job. Focus on developing a relationship for a 10, 20, 30-year span with the person, okay? That should be the intention that you're putting out. Next thing, following up with companies you've already applied to. You'd be surprised on actually how many people actually follow up and follow through on companies they've applied to or talked to the interviewer. It's okay to lightly use touch points. And I've hired people that, the big single thing that stood apart from them, they followed up. So you want to make sure you follow up in a very nice way. I'm not saying like, hey, I applied, what the hell? I'm saying, send a very nice LinkedIn message or an email. Just like, hey, I was wondering if the position's still available. What can I do to earn the position? What can I do to earn the spot? It's a good question to have. So you want to make sure you're doing stuff like that, following up. Next thing is voice memos. This has been very effective for a lot of people, where voice memos, and you can do this on cell phones now, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, whole host of things, where you send a pre-recorded voice memo, usually ideally 30 to 60 seconds of your voice, basically just highlighting, it's kind of a version of a cold call of your accomplishments and what you bring to the table, and you send it to the hiring manager or whoever posted the position. It's a good technique to do. This has yielded some very good results. Make sure that also you have your resume ATS optimized, applicant tracking system. It's the HR software that recruiters use. Make sure so your resume and your LinkedIn is optimized so that it comes up in the software. When recruiters post a job, right, they might get 500 applications, and their software system, it's powered by AI, is going to shoot out, here's the top 10, 15 resumes you should look at that's going to have the highest probability of success. So you want to make sure that your resume is ATS optimized, okay? You can check in the description below for some resources to do that. Next thing, obviously I partnered with Tech Sales Ascension. They have people who've gone through that program have found a sales job, either almost every other day or at least twice a week, something like that. It's amazing, actually, the level of people, the ratio of people that have entered and are able to find work. So I definitely recommend that. I obviously do the networking calls once a week. It's a great resource where I actually go into your resume and your LinkedIn and break down exactly what you need to change. And then I don't think we've had 1-2 that are the same. Every coaching call is very, very different. And that's free with the program. So look in the description, you get 10% off. And also, if you decide to use the link that I provide, I gift you a free one-on-one consulting session. I do recommend using it for a mock interview. Okay, so when you have a interview lined up, let me know. We'll schedule a time, and we'll do a free one-on-one if you do that. Okay, so something to consider. Next thing, you want to start developing your persona and your personality traits that reflect a top seller. Okay, so this is why reading books on what top sellers do, like listening what the mannerisms of top sellers, and starting to mirror and mimic what that looks like, so you have the same tendencies going into the role. Something very, very important. You want to practice your interviewing skills. It's amazing on how many people I can tell did not practice the interview. Sometimes as a recruiter, I even give them a freebie and I give them a template of exactly here's what to prepare for the job. And it's amazing how many people don't do it. So make sure you prepare beforehand, ideally the day before and ideally the morning of the interview. You prepare your common questions and your professional summary, usually between 2 to 5 minutes for your professional summary. You also want to practice storytelling, okay? Highlighting your key accomplishments and showcasing your ability to become an asset to that company, okay? So make sure you're demonstrating those skills, okay? It's a lot of it sales 101, sell yourself first. It's amazing people kind of forget that sometimes. So work on some of these things and also your professional skills. Be on time. Make sure you have the right backdrop. Send a thank you message after the interview. Those little things really, really help you. They help you stand out from all the other people that are trying to apply. So I hope that helps. Let's see. Yeah. So book recommendations. So I'm a pretty avid reader. If you look at Mind, Body, Spirit, and finance, here's some books that I would recommend. So if you're looking at spirituality, I read the book Untethered Soul. Great book. Really talks about how to kind of let things go, let it loose, things like that. If you're looking at money, there's a few ones that, number one is It Works, the little red book that makes all your dreams come true. That's the title. It's literally like $4 on Amazon. Super easy. Think and Grow Rich, true classic. Just reread it over the over the last month and finished it on Sunday. There's a lot of little tidbits that you always read a book in a new unit at a time. You get a little bit more out of it. Next thing, Karmic Management. This is a really good book on how to be of service to others. Compound Effect. This is like one of my favorite books of all time. It literally takes so many success books and just condenses it into a perfect summary of so many. So the Compound Effect is a great one. Another one is How to Be Rich by J. Paul Getty. This is an old school book written by, at the time, one of the richest guys in the world. And he talked about, it's not just, he talks about the skill sets of having money, but also the mindset. So some things to consider there. If you're looking into health, okay, Unbounded by Ben Greenfield is a great summary of all the stuff and a lot of stuff that I've taken from the biohacking community. Breath by James Nestor. All these are on my shelf over there. Breath by James Nestor. It's a great book on kind of the lost art of nose breathing and just breath work itself. Another one is the Wim Hof Method by Wim Hof, obviously. And he talks about his protocol for breath work and cold exposure. Another great book, Intuitive Fasting. If you're interested in food, read the book Intuitive Fasting. This is one that kind of talks about the keto diet and intermittent fasting and just some great health protocols that you can utilize, okay? Relationships. If you guys are looking into getting a better relationship, I know I'm more recently married, but, me and my wife, we've used a lot of these techniques in the books and we've seen great results. So 3 books I would recommend. Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I think the most updated one is called Beyond Mars and Venus, which I recommend, by John Gray. It's a great book. It's got a lot of good to-dos in there on, how to kind of have better communication. It also talks a lot about health stuff. You'd be surprised. A lot of stuff on health that can affect your relationship or marriage, or how to attract the right person. Another one is the 5 Love Languages. This is very essential, and these are books I wish I read 15 years ago. And the 5 Love Languages, it's about, are you communicating to your significant other in your own language or their language? And you have to communicate with them in their language. Everybody has a primary and a secondary. So, for example, with my wife, she is acts of service and quality time. Those are her love languages. I'm like more, affirmation? Yeah, words of affirmation and physical touch. So very different, and we have to make sure we identify, what the other person wants to be kind of communicated to. So 5 Love Languages is really good. Beyond Mars and Venus. Another book is Attached. It's a good book. It's not one of my favorites, but a lot of psychologists and people who are like marriage counselors use this book a lot because it can predict divorce to a really crazy degree. So it tells you how to do it or how to predict divorce, but also how to not end up in that situation. So it's a good book to kind of to check out. I do think the first two are a little bit better, but Attached is still a really one that a lot of counselors use all the time. Okay, so guys, I hope that was helpful. I know that's a lot. It's a little bit of everything, of kind of what the year's done, what I do. By the way, I made this whole list, and this happens a lot on these videos where I made this whole list and I just keep talking, and then we run out of time, or is a lot longer than the needs be. But use some of these techniques to set yourself up for success for 2024. Okay, 2024 is coming, and there's a lot of stuff that, I'll be honest, it's, you got to start planning right now. Cost of living's going up, the competition of the job market's going up, inflation's going up. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening, and you want to make sure that you're one step ahead. And I do all these things when it comes to spirituality, health, wellness, and of course financials. And of course, in my area, the job market. It's something that I'm very passionate about following, helping others people get there. And I want to make sure that I can position you guys to get to the best spot possible and to make 2024 your best year yet. I'm going to try to make it my best year yet, but I would love to help you guys get there too. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I include all my contact info in the description below. But I hope some of those tips and tidbits really, really help. And I'll catch you guys on the next one, okay? All right, cheers.